here, so there's questions or clarifications, and he can try to help translate as much as possible in the first few rows over here, and I'll have him sit over here and he'll translate for you guys if you need it. If you have your students with you that you want translation for, they can do that for you if you'd like to stay where you're at. So.
Si necesitas alguien traducir en español, si ustedes pueden sentarse aquí o si prefieres que sus hijos traduzcan para ustedes, igualmente estará bien, pero sí, bienvenidos para sentarse aquí para traducir.
The other thing we'll do is we're videotaping this event and we will have it translated and put on the website, so it'll be both English and Spanish versions on our website as well.
El grabador de video está aquí y esta presentación va a estar en español y en inglés también en el sitio web de nuestra partido.
Okay, my name is John Gimno. I'm the principal of Park Middle School. I am very happy you guys are here tonight. This is something we've never done before. The goal for us is we have a lot of concerns with our parents about the rigor, how hard 7th grade is right now, how students are struggling with the material. And we can't change the curriculum. We can't change the Common Core standards. That's what we have adopted as a nation. We know it's tough. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to water down so your children aren't experiencing what other kids are experiencing in higher performing districts, because they have to compete with those same people in life and in college. So we have to keep the bar raised to where the standard is. I'm sorry.
This is really good.
So I'm going to turn this over to the teachers. I apologize, I have to leave. It's my son's birthday and I have the cake here. I have to get home by 6:30, so I am going to leave right now. But it's very nice to see you guys here, because my biggest fear was 20 of you guys would show up and not the people that had all the concerns. So this is very good that you guys are here, because we need to get feedback from you as parents about how we can support you guys to make sure your children are successful, because you have the biggest stake in their life. We only get them for a little while, you live with them forever, and what they become is, has a lot to do with our relationship together. So we want to make sure we support you in that. So without further ado, I want to introduce our translator, the man, jack of all trades here, Michael Adams. Clap. They're working outside their contract now, it's a clap again. We have Scott Hansen, 7th grade English teacher. Marie Enrique, 7th grade English teacher. And we have Shelly Lucido, 7th grade math teacher. Like I said, we are filming this in the back, so what we really want to do is we want to go through the presentation, and then we're going to let you open up for questions for your teachers to ask about whatever you may need to ask about. So let's get through the presentation before we have a lot of questions, because then we make sure we post on the internet, make sure it's kind of clean, and it's for any parent that wants to go back and view it, they have some supports in place. Okay, so we'll have questions at the end. Without further ado, thank you guys for coming, and I would love to have feedback after it's over. So if you want to drop me an email and say, Mr. Gimno, that was great, or Mr. Gimno, what are you doing right now? Whatever you want to say, honest feedback, I'd love to have, so drop me an email if you want to give me some feedback out tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gimno and Mr. Hansen, and we're going to go over today just as quickly as we can, but also making sure we get all the information that we need to get across. We're going to talk about a little bit about the psychology just behind why we have Common Core, what has changed in our society now. It's going to be a very, very brief portion. Preparing students how to study both at home and at school, stuff that you can do to both help your students and help us in ways that we can help you. The study techniques, there are 5 of them. That's really the meat and potatoes of what we're going to go over today, the ways that you can help your son and daughter improve academically in each and every class here at Park. And then some of the common mistakes that we have as students, teachers, parents, I mean everyone, some of the common mistakes that we encounter in studying. Very quickly, I want to put this one up here. There are 2 very prestigious educational research companies, and they have found a very disturbing fact that students spend over 2,200 hours in front of a screen every year. That's a cell phone, computer, video games, and that wasn't like that when we were kids. And this is something that we need to address as a society, that we have an immediate response is what they call it. We're expecting nowadays to click on something and immediately get an answer. And it really is hard for students now to spend that long effort. Why am I taking a week to read and understand this material when I can watch the movie in 2 hours? And this is where we're at, and it's something that we need to be aware of so we can kind of overcome that. I love this quote, so I put this in here. Teacher of 14 years basically said that we're entertainers now. Along the lines over the last 10 years, teachers have had to become entertainers because of that immediate response. We need to draw the reader, the student, anyone's attention. We know it firsthand. I mean, how many of us have pulled up next to a car and seen people texting? It's, oh, I got 2 seconds free, I need to do this. I need to change the channel to something else. And oh, this app is boring me now I need to go to something else. So it really kind of, it makes it difficult. And this is something we're just kind of letting everyone know that is something that does happen when the students say, well, I didn't catch all that. I wasn't focused as much as I could be. A lot of that is not just their fault. A lot of that comes from, hey, we're used to being able to click a button and get an answer. And now they can't just click a button and get an answer. They've got to sit here in the classroom. Easily distracted generations with shortest attention span. I highlighted that at the bottom. Out of 2,600 teachers polled, 90% said that technology is great, but it does create distractions. And again, that's where we're at as a society, and it's something that we need to address. They also said 75% said technology is good, and we know that technology is good. Technology helps us a lot. I don't know how many of us remember the Dewey Decimal System, but I remember when I had to do an English report, I had to go to the library and get, sadly, a typewriter and sit down and type my essay, and if I made a mistake, it wasn't backspace, it was scroll up, white out, scroll back down, readjust and make sure it fits, and then do it again. I had to look up reference material. I couldn't pull out a phone in my pocket and say, Civil War, enter. Oh, great. Here's all my research material. And I wish it was. I really wish I had that when I was in school. Again, I just wanted to mention that we know that these are the things that we need to do. The big push I want to put at the bottom here is remember that homework is practice, not a punishment. We preach this to our students. Homework is a necessity. We know this. I mean, even more now than ever before, I would say. This fact remains true. I remember going to school and being told to, read a chapter for English, read 30 pages in my history book, and that was just two days worth of homework, do 40 math problems. And it was one of those, it was the mentality at the time, just give a bunch of information as quickly as possible. And right now, I know it may not feel like it at times, but we're working, trying to do less problems and get a better result. So we want to do more with less, and sometimes that's a difficult process, it really is. Again, I say, on the other side of the desk, being a teacher now instead of a student, I'm looking at students, and sometimes I find myself shaking my head, because I've had, just the other day, a student complaining. They said, "Mr. Hanson, there's too much work. I had to read 2 pages of a short story today, and I had to do 10 math problems." And I said, "Really? Do you want to know what I used to do when I was in school?" It would make your head explode. You were so used to that, hey, I want a quick fix, I want that quick answer. And that again goes back to that technology and how society has changed for us. Speaking of homework, I would say this. For all of our classes, I know homework is something that some of us are very concerned about. And also I will say this, with the change in the way people view education and society is working towards the Common Core, we're really looking for effort. We don't need the 100% correct answers. And I know that is a change for some of us because we're used to that. When I went to school, if I didn't come back with the correct answers, my grade was affected. You didn't get it right. You suffered the consequence for that. But somewhere along the line, we forgot that school is here for education. We're learning this. If a student goes home and memorizes all the answers and knows it 100%, they're no longer a student. They're not learning it any longer. They've mastered it. They're exceptional. They should be teaching the class. So I know we're assigning homework, and all the teachers, we really try to stick it to about 20 minutes or 30 minutes a day. And we're getting some feedback from some parents that it's taking much longer. And I would say, don't let it take longer. Really just fight for the effort. Say, okay, I want you to sit down and do the best you can with what you've got. If you don't quite fully understand it, that's what we are here for. We're here to answer those questions. What I need to see as a teacher, and what all of us need to see as a teacher, is work. If you bring back work and it's incorrect, I can fix incorrect. I can't fix blank. Okay? I don't know what's going on if it's blank. And that's what we need help from you as a parent, is make sure that there's no blank homework coming to school. If they come to you and say, well, you know, I didn't understand it, and I have students, and you know, my son does this all the time. He comes home and says, I don't get it. What don't you get? I don't get it. I said, well, what's your name? Jared. Okay, so you get some of it. Right? So you're okay here. Well, what's the part that you're struggling with? Okay, well, I don't understand how to do this. Okay, well, explain it to me. How did your teacher explain it to you? I don't know. As soon as I hear that, I already know that my son didn't do his job. Because no teacher just stands there and goes, you know what? Here's a packet, do it. I'm not going to tell you how, just do it. Right? So no one's ever going to do that here. It's kind of a focus thing. I know my son wasn't focused if he comes home and says, I don't know how to do something. They have an understanding. They may not know it perfectly, but they know something. They can get it started. And that's, again, what we need to see, that effort. This is the study techniques. This is where you really, why you're really here, is to kind of know some of the things that you can do to help your sons and daughters be more successful. Big bright pictures. I know the students love them, so I'll throw them on here. Number one is pay attention in class. Just absolutely, this is the most challenging thing in the world, because, like I said, our attention span is a little bit shorter, and it's not bad for us. It's not a negative, it's just something that society has made us. We have a shorter attention span, it's a fact. But for us, we need to learn how to refocus. I mean, our sons and daughters in school have friends, and it's very easy to look and say, okay, I don't want to divide fractions. This is hard. My brain hurts. Hey, what's my friend doing over there? Oh, he's looking at this. Right? I mean, that's much easier and it's much more fun to do. And that's right there, we've lost focus. And now we need to kind of remind our students to regain that focus. But you know what's really funny is if you watch television, like straight, for 6 hours they can just do this. Playing a video game, you want to eat? No, I'm good. Like a little robot. They're just, you know, they're controlling this. I'm good. It's like a machine. You set them in a classroom, Okay, today we're going to learn about noun. And they're gone. You know, it's the real challenge for teachers and for parents. I say take good notes. There's not a single class here that does not take notes, that a student will not take notes in that class. Every single class, they will take notes. And being a good note taker is a skill. It's something that we need to teach them how to do. And I guarantee you we do teach that. It should be reinforced. It should be taught again and again and again. I wish I could teach at least once a week just to remind students what to do. But a lot of times we get students writing an entire slide. We put a slide up there and they're trying to copy the whole thing. Don't copy the whole thing. Think about what you need to write. Okay? I've done this before, and for the students that are here, don't tell anybody else that I do this because it's kind of funny to watch. I write some weird stuff up here. I like write tomato, taco, bulldog, and I'll just write those words randomly and watch a student write it. Bulldog? Why is bulldog? That's because I just want to see if they're paying attention or are they just little robots copying from the slide. Keep an organized notebook, some kind of organized binder, organize something. Something needs to be organized because, honestly, organization is something that students do not get until high school. I don't know why it is. I've walked past my son's room before, and organization is not a word I will ever use for his room. Right? And that doesn't even include a backpack. I know you've all seen a middle school backpack. And I'm flat out going to say that is a phenomenon that needs to be studied by scientists from NASA. Because that is things go in it, it's like a black hole, it never comes back out. I've told students in my class at Dallas Ranch when I was teaching 5 years ago, I asked a student for an assignment. He said, "Oh, I think it's in my backpack." And he pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to me. It was from 5th grade, and it was a math assignment. I said, "What is this?" "Oh, I thought I turned that in." Like, from 2 years ago? Like, how is this still here? I could not believe what I had seen, but it happened. So I would say this. As a parent, you check your son and daughter's room, check their backpack. I know it's frightening. Wear protective clothing, but reach in there, just be careful. And pull stuff out, because I think there's a monster that eats homework in there. But again, reach in there and get the information you need. Double check it. Asking questions in class. This one we get a lot, especially me. I'm scary, apparently. Everybody says I'm scary, and what's really funny is I'm a coach, so they haven't even seen the scary Mr. Hansen. So for us, asking questions is key. If we don't understand things, we need to ask questions. And I give students all the time analogies. One of them I give is, hey, if you're drowning in the ocean, do you just sit there quietly and sink into the water, or do you flail around like, help, help? Right? You need to get the attention of the lifeguard. Well, we're the lifeguards. Flail your hand. Hey, I don't understand that. And I know the number one answer I get, they're shy. And I have to say this, shyness is a personality trait, not an excuse. It's something that we need to be aware it exists and we need to overcome it. It happens. We cannot go through life and just be shy and not speak up. It's going to be to the detriment of your son or daughter. Reinforce that. All the teachers here, even scary Mr. Hansen, is here to answer questions. I am here for your son or daughter's academic education, as is Ms. Lucido, Ms. Enrique, and Mr. Adams. We're here for this. This is our purpose. I love this slide. Have a positive attitude, what I like to call the will to learn. Does your son or daughter come to school like this or like this? Because if they come like the one on the right there, that's not how we want to show up to school. And that positive attitude is a small thing, but it makes such a huge difference in the classroom. And this is where, as teachers, it's really hard to affect their attitude. It really is. This is something that comes from home. This is something that we can influence, but really, really comes from you quite a bit. The bottom line is, those that succeed, come to class with the will to learn, those who are ready, will succeed. And those that come into class, I hate school, often don't. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We come in hating school, we're going to leave hating school. We come in loving school, we're going to go to college. That's just a mindset we want our students to be in. And as Mr. Jimno said, the Common Core, it's here to stay. The nation has adopted this. We spent billions of dollars on this program. It's here. I personally love it. I've been sending my son to school for years, and I feel that now this year, for the first time, my son is actually struggling in school because they implemented Common Core. And I feel for the first time they actually brought education into school. Because a lot of times he was bringing home some assignments and that's 5th grade level? What is that? You're doing coloring work. His 2-year-old sister is doing coloring and he's right next to her coloring. What's wrong here? There's something that's not clicking. So I say this, whether we agree or not, the Common Core is here, and we need to support it. We need to press forward with this. This does mean an increase in rigor, and some students for the first time ever are seeing a decrease in their grades. And again, I am stressing to you, try to focus on the education instead of the grades. And I know that's hard. I know it's hard. But we're working on the education. And it's not fair to some of the students, let's be honest. All of a sudden they've been sailing along and coloring assignments and doing, I had a student come to me and said, Mr. Hanson, I had 127% in 5th grade. How is that even possible? I asked my math teacher, you can't have 127%. That's not possible. I'm even one of the coaches, and I hate that coach phrase. Give 110%. Give more than all? How do you give more than all? So I'm stressing this is we're here for that education, and they will get there. I have a lot of students who are beginning of the year kind of struggling, and you see it. Yeah, I got this. I'm going to hit my rhythm, I'm hit my stride. And a lot of this is the students kind of struggle sometimes with a positive attitude because they're a little less enthusiastic than they are. It's tough. Like, I can't just click a button and now I have the magic answer. I need to think. I need to study. I need to practice. And that really leads to them kind of not feeling great about having a harder time to keep this. Okay? And for you as parents, we could really use your support because I know a lot of us are frustrated as parents too, saying, this is hard, this is difficult, and it is hard. And like I said, the Common Core curriculum is hard. But when they hear you at home saying, this is too hard, you can't do this, they start to believe it. And then I start getting that blank homework assignment. Like, well, it's too hard. Did you try? No, it's too hard. We don't want to raise a bunch of students that say, you know what, it's too hard. Why don't you go to college? It's too hard. Why don't you work for that extra degree? It's too hard. We want students that say, you know what's difficult, I need to challenge myself. And that's what we're trying to press. Preparing at school, this is something that they're going to do with us, and I'm just going to very, very briefly go over this. Reread material after exams, so when students take tests, they know how they do. And I stress to all my students, as to all of us, is if you're guessing, assume you're wrong. Because guessing is not knowing, right? We want to know that we understand the material, not just guessing we've understood the material. Reviewing through highlighting material, taking notes, again, these are things that we do at school, so kind of look for that at home. Hey, you took a test day. What do you think you missed? Let them answer that for you. Preparing at home, this is something that you can do for us. This is going to be very, very beneficial. I will tell you, even though I'm going to go over the study techniques in just a minute, this is the key right here. Shorter attention span. Students are easily distracted. We've covered this already. Right here, we need to have a place and a time designated every day for our sons and daughters to do homework. Not, hey, sit down in front of the television and do your assignment, because they're not going to do the assignment. That attention's going to go up and watch that television. Sometimes it's scary. Go into the, maybe their place in the bedroom. Hey, go in your bedroom and do your work. We can't tell them anymore. This shift in mentality of studying is not where we were when we were kids. I was told to go sit in my room for 2 hours and study. We can't think that way anymore. We need to break it down into smaller segments. And try to keep it to a regular schedule. Hey, from 4 until 4:45, you study. Give me your phone. Hand me that video game controller. Turn off the television. Okay? This is something that you can do for them that will be so beneficial. You will see a marked improvement in grades. I almost assure you. Because once they start getting in that routine of, okay, from 4 to 4:45 I study, then I take a break for about an hour and a half. Then I go back from 6:15 until 6:45 I study again. From 7:30 until 7:45 I study again. That's how we do this. We do this, I guarantee you'll start seeing some better results. Remind students that not to cram for tests. I know we've all done it before. Procrastination and just the day before the test, we want to take the massive test. Okay, test is on Wednesday, let's study on Tuesday. If the test is on Wednesday, we should be studying the previous Thursday, the previous Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all throughout the week, preparing for that test, not just one night. Divide your time in each session. Again, if they're going to break it down in 45 minutes, try to break things down into smaller segments. If they struggle with math, hey, do 3 math problems, and then do some English problems, and then do some history problems, and then do a few science, read your science section, then take a break. But keep it consistent, that's the key, keeping it consistent. So again, I will say, find your time, that is a crucial skill. Eliminate distractions. This is where, again, you have to take that home. I know they'll fight. Okay? I don't even know how I think a video game controller is actually the heart of my son's hand at this point in time. So it's hard to take away, but just, you gotta take it. Take it out, make sure that they're not using it. And then prioritize. Hey, if you've got a math test tomorrow and you have an English test next week, we should be working on math first. If you've got a science project due in 2 days and you haven't started, that should be a top priority. Okay? Try to keep the grades out of it. Don't do that, well, they need to do this because they're struggling in this subject. Prioritize when these things are due. This looks like a lot. I'm just going to briefly go over this. What I want you to focus on is the how. This is really all you need to write down, is just the how. Write down what it is. I've even told this to the students, and they should have these notes for you. So if you want to go check them, ask them for the notes. Here are the 5 techniques that have been proven to be effective for student study techniques. The first being elaborative interrogation. Elaborative interrogation. Students need to ask the whys. They need to ask the how does it work. They need to ask questions beyond just the normal. We're used to taking tests. I know when I went to school, it wasn't about how much do you know, it was how much could you memorize in a short amount of time, spit out onto a piece of paper, and then quickly erase in your brain. That's all school was for a long time for me. Quick memorization, move on to the next one. Memorize that. Well, we're more than Xerox machines. We have a very complex brain and we need to use that. So how does this work? Is the students asking themselves why. For example, if I'm having the students read a story and it's about a character racing his car, it's great if they can tell me he raced his car, but that's like a first grade type question. Like, what did that character do? He raced a car. What I want is more of an understanding. Why did he do it? How did that affect the story? Did that change anything? That's the elaborative interrogation that we're talking about. This is a very, very good study technique. Another study technique is the self-explanation, explaining things to yourself. And how we do this is create short summaries so students can teach themselves. I even told my students, I said, if you really want to mess with your parents, do this at home in front of the mirror in the bathroom, because it's hilarious. Watch them write down the information and then stand in front of the mirror and say, okay, today class, we're going to learn about cells. In science, we use the cell to, and watch them just kind of talk to themselves, because that's what self-explanation is if you can teach it, you know it. There's a reason your teachers have degrees in their fields because they know the material. We can teach it because we know it. Once a student understands it well enough that they can explain it to themselves, which the key is they're using their own words, not necessarily my vocabulary words, they're using their words to explain it to themselves. And once they start doing that, again, comprehension goes up. Example I said, after learning about scientific theory, how would I explain that to myself? If I was a new student, how would I say that to me? Another one is practice testing. Cannot stress this one enough, especially for English and math. This is key. Practice tests. How do we do that? Excuse me. Create or find a test that focuses on the same knowledge or skill. If you're sitting in, Mr. Adams or Ms. Luciano's math class and you are working on integers, find an integer test online. Open you guys use websites now, right? Open up a website that is specifically designed from this class and start answering questions. If in English class, you're asked to find the verbs, take a verb test online. We did that in class. I even showed the students, typed in online verb quiz. There was over 1 million websites that came up. That's plenty of practicing. Right, so again, the example I had here is after studying how to multiply and divide fractions, the students maybe create a test, a practice test. It's not bad to erase your answers or get another piece of paper and just re-answer the questions. This one I already kind of talked about because I talked about the schedule and making sure you have a consistent schedule. This is distributed practice, and how we do this is by creating a short schedule over a set amount of time. I would say no more than 2 or 3 little sessions throughout a day. If you can, yeah, over the weekend. We get that we have lives, we have things that we want to do. But if you have time, stick to the schedule. The more we practice, the better. And the reason this works is because for us, I know if we're working in our jobs and we have something that doesn't happen very often, and then all of a sudden it comes up and you kind of look at it, I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to do this. I haven't done this for a while. If you have to restart your brain constantly, you're always going to remember it. And the way I say this is if, for history, for example, if you're trying to learn about the Roman Catholic Church and how it impacted the history of Europe, don't just review it for 2 hours, one day. Review it for 15 minutes every day for a straight week. Because every time you come back to it, your brain has to go back into, what did I remember from last time? What did I remember from last time? And the more we pull that information to the front of our brain, the more we keep it there. And then the last one is interleaved practice. And this is just doing other things. And the how right here is cover different skills. So for example, after reading a short story, if I'm working on theme, I can talk about setting. We can talk about sentence structure. We can talk about the purpose of it. We can talk about figurative language. What's a metaphor? Even though I'm addressing theme. I know I said fractions earlier, and pardon me if I'm wrong, Ms. Luciano, but I haven't taken math since the 90s. So if you're dividing fractions, you need to know how to add and subtract fractions, correct? So maybe as a refresher, this is what this practice does. Is, hey, I'm going to take a test on dividing fractions. I'm going to go back a couple sections and answer a couple questions on adding and subtracting first. Kind of like to warm up and kickstart that brain to get it going. Really quickly, I just want to go over the common mistakes. We know these, we've seen them. Don't cram for tests. Spread it out over the course of time. We're no longer in that mentality of just memorizing a bunch of facts. So you're very, very seldom going to just get a study guide and say, here, memorize these things and then perform on the test. We're looking for skills. Can you do this? Do you understand this? Ignoring practice problems, that goes back to the homework. We need the homework. We need that effort being put in. That's the practice. I know SpongeBob and Adventure Time is much funnier, but we still need to study math problems in science and history. This is a key one. I ask students this all the time. Did you study for the test? Yeah. How'd you study? I read the packet. Okay, so you read. Yeah, that's studying. Okay. So what do you call reading? Reading? Okay. So a lot of times we have students who think, if I just read the material over and over again, I get it. I've been teaching for a long time, and I've never seen a student reread the same material 20 times and say, aha, now I get it. And I even give them an example in my classroom. I put up a foreign language paper, basically written in French. And I said, okay, read that. Okay, anybody understand it? No. Okay, read it again. They read it the second time. I said, do you understand it now? No. Okay, read it again. They read it 5 times in class. I said, anybody still understand it? No. I said, so reading it multiple times doesn't magically make you understand something. You need to go through the process of learning it. Taking too many notes or studying too many notes, again, make it simple. Do what you need to do. And then studying for too long, I said, break it into short statements or short study sessions. And then what I tell the students, not being honest with yourself is a very common mistake. Thinking, I got this just because I want to be done with it is not good. Okay, I studied for 45 minutes, I just have it now. Why? Because 45 minutes is how long Mr. Hanson said that this would take. No, you need to do it until you get it. Or break it up and then come ask questions. Very quickly, again, I'm trying to say that too often, but for English specifically, we need to ensure that students know all the terms at the beginning of the packet. This is how to prepare for Ms. Enrique and myself, or specifically our class for English, is you know the packets. You probably cursed us for having the packets. And I assure you that we've yelled at each other quite a bit for creating the packets. We spend hundreds of hours every summer creating these and making sure that they're accurate and grade level. So when we say we hate them, we probably hate them worse than you do, because I've been staring at them for hours and hours and weeks and weeks and weeks. So the terms that we need them to know is at the beginning. We try to narrow that down, and every time you look at a packet, you should see some terms and some definitions they should know, some rules that they might have to be aware of. That's always at the beginning. The practice comes a little bit later, and then the very last part should be one of our nonfiction or fiction articles. The packet is a format for practice, so if you ever say, they say, oh, I have to do page 2 and 3, that's the homework, that's the practice, that's how they're using that knowledge to build those skills. We encourage online searching. If you have a computer at home, great, use it. That is a great tool. Technology is wonderful if used properly. And then, I don't know how many of you have seen it, but on the very front cover of our packets, we have that little box there. It says, here's the skill. Understood completely, somewhat, slightly, or not at all. They're supposed to be putting little check marks there. So if you don't see check marks, say, hey, you need to do that little check mark. Where are you at? Do you get that a lot? Do you understand it mostly? Tell me where you're at. That'll help narrow the study process. And for Mr. Jimno, he's really good at relaying information. It's a lot of parents that are concerned, and as we all are, about some of the progress our students are making. And we're getting information being asked to Mr. Jimno, and he's doing a great job of relaying that information to us, and we love feedback, we do. I would ask that you bring it to us, because we have better answers than Mr. Jimno, because we're the ones that built it. We have a purpose for everything we do. And if you don't like the answer from us, I urge you to go to the next level. But a lot of times, we have that answer for you, so just come to us and we will get you that answer. It helps a lot with the communication process. So again, there's that front thing that I told you about, if they're checking the little boxes there. But at this point, I finally get to stop talking, and you're all happy about that, I'm sure. I am. This is Ms. Lucido here. So I will let her take the reins, and she's going to talk specifically about math.
Okay, I just want to cover just a few more specifics. Everything that Mr. Hansen told you really applies to all subjects. Math specifically, our homework is time consuming. We try to limit it to a few problems, not so they're done quickly, but so they can spend a lot of time on 3 problems, 4 problems. Because it's not, I tell kids they get a stamp on the paper. It's not about a stamp, it's about coming back the next day, understanding the material, because we're moving so quickly that the homework is they're really almost like studying. Did I get the lesson? Am I ready for the next lesson? It's not really like a drill, it's not a practice. I mean, it's practice, but we want them to get to the point where they're knowing that they're doing it correctly. They have answers to be checking. So they should be checking answers, working on homework, checking to make sure it's correct. If it's not correct and they can't figure it out, that's their question the next day. So that process is what we're trying to get them using. It's difficult because I think they're just used to producing work. So I purposely give them the answers before they go home. They have the odd answers because I would book. They're like, you're giving us the answers? Yeah, you need a lot of work to go with that, but you need to know that you're on track and you're doing that correctly. So they should really be using their math homework time as a study time to work through problems, check that it's correct. If it's not correct, that's really where the learning happens. If it's correct, they knew it already. If it's not correct, that's their chance to really sit down and think about how to get to that answer and look online, see if they can find a way to get that correct answer. If not, that's when we would like to see them. They can come in the morning and ask a question. They can come after school and ask a question. They can ask that question in class, but when they do that at-home piece, they have a question. And that's how they find out that they have that question. So the homework for math, really important. And then, so I do want to show you the online resource that all of your students have. They've used this in class before, so they're familiar. But as math teachers, the number one thing we get from parents who really want to help their kids is, I really want to help my student, but I'm horrible at math. This math is way harder than the math I had. I have no idea how to help them. So I want to give you some tools, so when they come to you, even if you don't know the math, you can help them at home. So you have a handout, and the website I'm going to is on the bottom of the handout. The students are familiar with it. They've used it several times at school already. And so when you ask them about it, they won't think that you're crazy. They know about it. They used it today in my class. So if you don't mind, I'll stand because I want to make sure I get this going for you. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Your students have logins for all 7th grade students. They know it, that it's their first initial, last initial, and ID number. Capital first initial, capital second initial, ID number. And I'm going to put this down real quick so I can log in and show you what it looks like. So when they log in, they have the course 2 book loaded. That's their 7th grade math book. If they're in 8th grade, they still have the same resources. It's just a different book that's there. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And this is the starting piece is right here. Currently they're in chapter 2, so they would go into whatever chapter. If they're on chapter 3, lesson 4 doing homework and they come to you for help, they can go into whatever chapter. They can go into whatever lesson. I'll go over, we just finished lesson 8. And in each chapter and every lesson, every single lesson in every single chapter, if you hit, they have a resource tab. And inside that tab, this is the icon sheet that I gave you. There are all of these resources. These are all resources just for chapter 2, lesson 8. So when students are absent, this is what I ask them to do. They can go on to, if they hit tutor, which is your second icon down, these are all videos. A video of the teacher teaching the lesson, another video of the teacher teaching the lesson, another one, and so they can just watch. You can watch videos with them as a way to maybe watch them help. So I won't play the whole video, but I'll show you. usually happen in class. Okay, so it looks like this, and then there's a teacher that goes through, teaches the whole lesson. Okay. So anyway, this is what it looks like, and they go after example, example, example. So each video is a different example. Great resource for parents and students. Okay, the other thing that is very helpful is this. If they're doing any homework problems that have, they might have, say, 7 homework problems on the page, a few of them will have a red house on the number. If they go to that question, it tells them how to do it. So this is chapter 2's homework, number 5, number 9A and 9B, has a step-by-step how to do that problem. So if they're on number 9 and they're like, I don't really understand this, and it has a house, they just go in online, open up that chapter, that lesson, it tells them how to do all of those problems, step by step, which is great. So again, it puts it off of you, puts it onto them. The more they use it, the better they feel about it, and it's a great resource for them. The next thing, this is the last one I'll show you, but they've been playing around with it. Today in class, they did the check mark. If you go to the check marks on any lesson, that's an online quiz, 5 questions on that lesson. They have a quiz for every single lesson, every single chapter. So we're taking a test tomorrow, and I told the kids today, you know, whatever you didn't practice today in class, you can go home and practice. Okay, so when they open it, it gives them 5 questions. I wish I could give it to you, but it's not opening right now. Oh, there we go. And they go through and answer them, but the best thing is, if they don't know how to do number 1, there's a hint for every question. So if they didn't know how to do number 1, they can hit the hint. It gives them a little hint, it reminds them of the formula, then they can use that hint to try it. And they go through 5 questions, and immediately check it, shows them exactly what they got right and wrong. So they could do that after every lesson. We're taking a test tomorrow. They did a few in class today. I said, hey, whatever you didn't finish, try those quizzes at home. So it really should be, you're not the one in 7th grade math, they are. So you can help them by guiding them and saying, you know, even if you don't know the math, hey, did you try the online quiz? Did you go online to watch the videos? If your student's absent, hey, while you're at home on the couch, why don't you watch those videos? Because they're missing lessons. So, you know, there's tons of resources there that you can just direct them to instead of having to know the math to teach them the math. And not to say that we aren't there to help them, we are. But a lot of times they need help at home. So, you know, those are some tools for you to use at home with them. And then have them come in morning or after school if something's not working for them. If they can't get in, they've tried. You know, we're a resource, but we're not there all the time. So it's better to have them start finding those resources. Okay?
And that's really all we have to present. And we are now going to invite Ms. Enrique and Mr. Adams up in case you have any questions specifically. We're happy to address any questions that you may have.